People, I've got my sales stats for the last year right here. Over the past 12 months on Amazon, my store has made a solid $600,000 in consistent sales. And on top of that, we've made another $400,000 through direct sales of auto parts in the US market. I entered this market niche with basically no experience, starting from scratch. But honestly, I think that lack of experience was in fact the thing that helped me build a company that's agile and can work with everything the market is throwing at it, like new tariffs, new trends, you name it. The approach I chose to build this business involved a lot of testing, tracking the metrics, and deploying a machine learning algorithm that really helped us grow. Today, it's a company that's growing steady and strong, even though just a year ago, it felt like everything could have gone completely off the rails. The authorities have started throttling YouTube. So watching YouTube will become, to say the least, uncomfortable. My life is going to change soon. But you know, it is very important to me that whatever I choose to do, I don't do it out of fear. Even though it's a huge challenge, because ever since YouTube suspended monetization for Russia in 2022, I've tried doing all kinds of businesses, and truth be told, I've failed in 90% of my attempts. And every failure made me increasingly scared, because you know, if you fail once, you fail twice, and you fail the third time. You start thinking, there must be something wrong with me, right? Maybe I'm not cut out for this? But I succeeded twice. First, in investments. You might recall me referring to Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, on many occasions in my videos, because it did change my mindset back in the day. It's all about how money should be making money. I was lucky the way that ever since graduation, ever since my very first paycheck when I was a kid, I've always been saving up. During the last 2 years, I used those savings to make a diversified investment portfolio, investing some into the stock market, a bit into crypto, and some into good private fintech companies, which helped increase my capital. My stock investments quadrupled, my crypto first tripled, then dropped by a half, and then recovered to a net gain of 50%. And my second achievement was building a company that sells products on Amazon using AI and smart search technology. You all know that e-commerce is insanely competitive. Millions of sellers are offering pretty much the same things. On Amazon alone, there are like 9.7 million registered seller accounts. So yeah, the competition is brutal. But I've been able to put together a team of experienced analysts and IT specialists who developed a tech-driven algorithm for the entire process. In the end, we've been able to generate over $1 million in revenue over the course of 14 months. Having started from scratch with a newly registered e-store, we made good profit, allowing the investors who put money into the inventory get a really good return on the investment. Naturally, I keep reinvesting all the profit right away. Additionally, I've found partners and clients in 5 countries: the UAE, France, Nigeria, Britain, and the USA. This is Lyadov and my new channel about doing business, making investments, Amazon sales, and e-commerce. But as always, it's primarily about people, the people who are out there doing things, businessmen, investors, traders. I'm going to interview them and have them tell you not only about the wins in their success stories, but also about the fuck-ups, losses, and failures. I am dedicating a separate channel to this topic to spare my travel audience the necessity to watch the content they never signed up for. This space is for those of you who, like myself, are deep into doing business and find this stuff fascinating, and might like to follow me on that journey. For those of you who haven't seen my blog, here's a quick rundown of what I've been doing so far. Over the last 6 years, I and my team have built 4 major successful YouTube channels available in 4 languages: Russian, English, Spanish, and Portuguese, with a total of 6.5 million subscribers. I've traveled to dozens of countries, been a guest on TV shows, and even picked up a few awards, including Russia's Best Travel Blogger. My videos have racked up tens of millions of views with the English language audience on YouTube. My project made it to the top of the main documentary community on Reddit and has been featured in Vice. Some of my issues are still available on Amazon Prime. In terms of overall views, we've just crossed 1.25 billion. I remember another day when things felt really awful. It felt like things were spiraling down. YouTube imposed sanctions, advertisers withdrew, I hired a new ad sales team, but they weren't doing any better. And on top of that, one person on my team left me. The truth is, we were both unhappy with each other, but this is definitely my weak spot. Everyone I work with knows that the moment they mention quitting, even in the heat of the moment or if they get emotional, I will push for them to actually leave. So yeah, it was a total mess. I remember it was autumn, it was cold. I dragged myself to the gym like a zombie because I'd signed up in advance. And you know what? I walked out of there completely different. A good sparring session can change your life. You lose fear, and you know that if you really need it, you can take on anyone. And then an old friend of mine from Dubai told me about his business, auto parts. He'd been in it for years and kept telling me that the market was doing really well because it's so huge, it's practically bottomless. Auto parts might just be the most traded product in the world. Between the manufacturer and the end user, there are 12 to 15 transactions. And my buddy had found his niche in that chain really close to the manufacturer. That means a good margin. But most importantly, it's an incredibly massive market. I came across an interview where visionary investor Oscar Hartman compared it to the info business. Look, YouTube in its entirety is a tiny market. It's just that people notice it because it's visible. Like when people drive around, they see McDonald's signs and Starbucks signs and so on. They don't know about B2B business because they don't see it. The auto parts market is worth 4 trillion. That's 40 times bigger than the entire info business market. I looked up the numbers. The global market for original auto parts and accessories is assessed at roughly $2 trillion. To put that into perspective, the global real estate market reaches about $1 to $2 trillion per year. The value of oil market, depending on the price per barrel, is between 2 and 3 trillion. So auto parts business is doing pretty much as well as oil trade. It's a massive pie, and if you can take just the tiniest slice, say 0.1%, you can make a lot of dough. So getting the parts wasn't the issue. The big question was where to sell them. I thought, why not try selling internationally to the countries I used to travel to? I know people there, and they usually know some decision makers. So I had my friend send me his price list, and I started comparing it to the prices in the countries where I had contacts. It seemed logical to start with wealthy countries, the UK being probably the richest. I thought it'd be just perfect. I got friends in the UK who have companies, we can do this. Until I got the numbers. The sales were tiny. It turned out the UK's auto parts market is incredibly small. First, the overall population is small, and those who actually repair their own cars make an even smaller number. Almost everyone gets services from dealers or repair shops. DIY crowd buy their parts on eBay. eBay is huge in Europe for car parts. But it's not a good platform for business. It's just not meant for it. There's no real analytics, no way to scale. Just some guys selling their stuff, whatever they have. Nothing serious. My analysts established that the best-selling part on eBay in the UK moves £6,000 a month. That's not just small, it's nothing. For context, monthly revenue of a medium-sized auto parts company would be around $10 to $15 million. So I thought, sweet Jesus, what is this? There are no buyers here. What were we analyzing here for 2 months? Why? Why did I have to start with the UK market? All I did, I ended up paying for the analysts for finding out it's no good. People, if you want to see new videos as soon as they drop, hit the bell so you don't miss any updates at all. Then I thought, wait, there are bigger markets, like the United States of America. Let's analyze that. And guess what? If the UK's top part sells £6,000 a month, in America, just one wiper blade item of one single brand was moving $6 to $8 million a month. So I was like, seriously? The US sales are that big? I started digging and realized that the US market isn't just big. It's like a black hole that just devours everything. If you look at the consumer spending stats, you'll see that Americans spend 2.7 times more on consumer goods than China, and 8 to 9 times more than India or Germany. The entire EU, all of its 27 nation states with a significantly larger aggregate total population, spends almost half as much as America. That means the US isn't just a market with millions of people, it's a market with an incredibly high purchasing power. Every single second, Americans spend $600,000. In just 1 minute, the US market devours the cost of a skyscraper building or a football stadium. In an hour, it consumes $2.16 billion. That, by the way, equals the GDP of a small country like Moldova, which is not even among the poorest ones. All of Africa, with its population of 1.5 billion people, spends less than America alone. The USA, representing just 4% of the world's population, accounts for nearly a third of global consumption. That means for every $10 spent by people in the world, 3 are paid by Americans. So in the end, when I was looking at the numbers, once my team was finished with all the calculations, I realized that first of all, those months of analyzing the UK market and paying the analysts for it had not been a waste at all, because that data helped me see clearly that all the spare parts on my price list were not only selling in the US with a fantastic, simply incredible margin, but also, and most importantly, the sales were huge. The market potential is amazing. It's definitely something one could actually work with, something you can only dream of if you want a successful business. So I said, let's do it. But then came all the questions. How do I deliver the goods? How do I pay for it? How do I handle exit and entry customs? Where do I store stuff? How do I ship it to buyers? How to rent a warehouse? Is it better to ship to the US by sea or air? And internally, by truck or train? But who's going to unload the merch? Do I need to control every shipment? Where all my stuff is going to end up if I'm not there? In short, I had tons of questions, but there was no panic because I brought an Amazon expert onto my team, who basically became my company's COO. My team also included an analyst, a spare parts expert, a logistics manager, and an import-export specialist. Once I had spread the word, I found that there were many people in my viewing audience who worked in auto parts business. We got in touch, some gave me tips, and some started working with me. And you know what? We started making sales from day one of our operation. I'm telling you, it was incredible. My team had chosen absolutely the right products that sold out instantly. Nothing was left unclaimed. Here you can see our shipping containers waiting to be picked up in the port. And here's our container ship. Off she goes. The margin was good, the sales went well, but then at some point, I got a letter. Hello. Your Amazon selling account will be deactivated on the 22nd of October 2024 in accordance with Section 3 of the Amazon Business Solutions Agreement. Funds will not be transferred to you, but will stay in your account while we work with you to address this issue. We believe, or our controls identify, that your account has been used for deceptive, fraudulent, or illegal activity in accordance with Section 3 of the Amazon Business Solutions Agreement. In order to protect our customers, we verify the identity of our sellers through a virtual identity verification process on a video interview. I started Googling and found a whole agency that preps sellers for these Amazon checks. You send them your invoices and other papers, they contact Amazon on your behalf and charge 500 euros for it. 500? No way, I'm not paying 500 euros for shit. I've already got everything I need. All my docs are squeaky clean, the invoices are perfect, stamped and everything, including certificates of origin for every single part. So I thought, go ahead Amazon, go on and check me. I've got nothing to hide. I opened my laptop and went through the verification just like that. Amazon's rules forbid recording this interview, so this part of my video is just a reenactment. And there was nothing scary about it. It was just a routine document check. You state your name, address, and so on. The inspector confirms everything is fine and approves it on the spot. And so my store was okay to continue. In the end, to automate the process, we built a little AI tool for our sales niche. Based on the legacy catalog optimization engines, we created an algorithm for smart and fast compatibility matching for products that don't have UPC codes, which is crucial. Legacy engines usually track items by their UPC, but in the spare parts world, there are tons of items that simply do not have them. So you have to somehow teach the algorithm to find the item's part number, which isn't easy because Amazon listings usually don't have a dedicated field for it, while spare parts are traditionally ID'd in sales by their part numbers. So our task was to train the algorithm to locate that part number in various places throughout the listing. It's actually a pretty complex process. Let me get a little technical here. Amazon uses its own UPC codes for inventory tracking, but spare parts industry uses a completely different numbering system. For decades, the entire auto parts world has been selling components using manufacturer part numbers for reference. As a result, syncing supplier price lists with Amazon's numbering system is either a tedious challenge or an outright impossible task that involves too many hours of manual data entry. And just to make things even more confusing, the exact same part can go by different part numbers depending on its origin. For instance, depending on whether it's made in the USA, Europe, South America, or China, a simple Toyota filter will go by 4 different part numbers. So how on earth do you make sense of it all? The sheer volume is mind-boggling. This is nothing like selling iPhones. It's a key challenge for selling car parts. A single car has roughly 30,000 individual parts. The engine alone contains about 5,000 of them. And when you multiply that by the number of car models, body styles, production years, and so on, we're talking about price lists with millions of SKUs. So here's what we did. We built a massive database of these listings and created an IT pipeline that integrates several AI models. This system lets us evaluate millions of SKUs for their profit margins in just 2 to 4 days' time. We thought about selling this as a software solution, but then decided it was smarter to reap the benefits ourselves. Which brings me to a crucial question, friends. How big can you actually grow on Amazon? There are public tools that allow you to check out the stats of the biggest stores. Take a look at this one. It's a store very similar to ours. They're also in the auto parts business, and they also have an excellent rating. They just got a good head start, launching back in 2011. Their gross income is $14 million, cash flow is $2.5 million. And they're selling the business, as you can see, 5 times EBITDA, which is $12 million. The asking price might be a bit inflated, but realistically, I think it could sell for 3 to 4 times EBITDA. So a store like that could easily sell for $7 to $8 million. And by the way, as you can see, the store only has 4 employees. Of course, Amazon stores don't just publish their data publicly. It's confidential information. But there are analytical tools that use indirect methods of assessment. They estimate sales volume based on the Amazon bestsellers rank, and then apply average prices, adjusting for seasonality, discounts, and the number of reviews. In short, it's a pretty rough estimate, but it gives you a ballpark figure. Here, for example, is a store selling oversized items. Estimated annual revenue is $19 million, and trust me, that's even less than modest. Take this well-known electronics and accessories seller, for example. Their annual revenue is $740 million, so the ceiling is incredibly high. The real Amazon gold rush actually happened about 3 to 4 years ago. It was almost as intense as the AI frenzy we're seeing today. Back then, major players emerged who were buying up stores by the dozen. And they did it with the same reckless abandon as people who invested into trucking businesses without having a clue how to manage it. The craziest story I'd like to tell is about the company called Thrasio. They were acquiring stores so fast that on paper, they ballooned to a valuation of $10 billion. They grew like crazy during the COVID-19 pandemic when online shopping absolutely exploded worldwide, growing a lot faster than it would have been otherwise. In those early years, Thrasio was doubling its revenue roughly every 73 days. By 2021, they were evaluated at $3 billion. Then at more than $10 billion. They became one of the fastest growing unicorns of the world. What was their strategy? They would buy up small and medium brands and then centralize all the back-end operations. They acquired dozens, then hundreds of thousands of Amazon accounts, and essentially fired the original teams, taking over all management functions. And Thrasio wasn't alone. There were dozens of other aggregators doing the exact same thing. And the market got so overheated that it was bound to have some consequences. Prior to this, an Amazon account would usually sell for, say, 3 times EBITDA, like in that listing I showed you. But during the frenzy, multiples shot up to 10 or 12 times. And that means that return on investment into a purchased store was no longer taking just 3 years, but 10 to 12 years. You see how that's a super inflated price and a completely unjustifiable purchase, right? But that's what happens when a market overheats and demand outstrips supply, and buyers keep on buying just about anything, not even bothering to pick and choose, buying for the sake of buying. On top of that, Thrasio accumulated $425 million in excess inventory that was just sitting in warehouses not selling, because they couldn't keep up with managing it all. And finally, in 2023, the company filed for bankruptcy. Today, out of all those aggregator companies, only 2 or 3 have survived, and the most successful ones have become very profitable. But they have achieved that precisely because they take an incredibly meticulous approach to optimizing every single SKU. I know such people personally who can do things like they might buy an Amazon account selling just one single SKU. As long as that one item generates excellent profit, they most carefully, really meticulously pick the best stores to buy without overpaying and then optimize the entire operation. In my company, we apply the exact same approach. Every single item we procure goes through a 5-factor selection process. We look at criteria like sales volume, purchase cost, and delivery cost. We make sure to eliminate oversized items which are more expensive to handle. We analyze things like selling price, minimum margin, and so on. In just a few months, our monthly revenue has grown by 780%. We've already paid out returns to our investors and attracted additional funding to scale up the business. And we keep on working. Next year, we plan to triple our achievements. So, if you've been thinking of e-commerce opportunities for a while, and maybe you've thought about selling on Amazon yourself, and you'd like to avoid all the routine it takes, like going through Amazon's account verification process, monitoring prices on an hourly basis, here's what we have. In addition to custom-made software, we have a dedicated person monitoring these things all the time, every single day. So, if you'd rather not deal with the hassle of increasing storage limits, which is something Amazon has been really cracking down on lately, but you'd still love to see a 10 to 15% return on your investment, depending on the amount, you can invest in our inventory. We'll handle the purchasing, delivery, customs clearance, and sales, and you'll get your share of the profits. Here's my personal email if you want to get in touch. I'd be happy to walk you through the investment options in detail during a personal chat. This has been Lyadov, and this is my new channel about business. Make sure to subscribe. I will share my personal experience here and publish a lot of input from other businessmen, investors, traders, startups, and venture capitalists. My next episode will be dedicated to a really fascinating concept known as microdrama. It's an incredibly cool business model that is extremely popular in China and is now making its way to the West. And my team is already on it.